Happy 2019. Over Christmas, my family and I enjoyed many meals together. I'm not afraid to admit that I am quite the fan of food. I mean, I am Italian after all, which means my DNA consists of wet spaghetti and Mamma mia! But in all seriousness, I have quite the food fetish. And since I'm a regular enjoyer of food, it enhances the experience to experiment with different types of ingredients when it comes to cooking. I could take a plain cooked burger and be fine with it, but where's the F-U-N in F-A-S-T-F-O-O-D? Let's say I'm used to eating plain burgers. Like really plain. Just two buns hugging a meat patty. What you have is a warm sandwich. But that's boring. What if you cooked onions into the burgers?
No! Layers! Onions have layers.
And added a nice beach of sriracha seasoning onto each side. That sounds okay. So you cook up your burger, and it's finger-licking good. In fact, it is so good that you don't want to forget how you made it. You better write it down. Here, borrow my... Wait a minute. Writing down the sequence of events, ingredients, and details about preparing a meal? That sounds like a recipe to me. Let's say you make a bunch of recipes for all kinds of different meals. That's a lot of loose papers, and you spent a lot of time subtly tweaking each recipe towards perfection. Loose papers get misplaced and can slip into cracks where it's a challenge to retrieve them, but I think I've thought of a solution. So you know how a book is just a collection of pages? Why don't you just do that? A book. And I think I have the perfect name for it. We'll call it a book filled with the ever-changing recipes of meals you thought would be meaningful to remember in case you wanted to cook them again. Actually, let's just call it a cookbook. If you have completed more than one cookbook, you have authored cookbooks. But you shouldn't cook books. That would be silly. But Nazis don't care about looking silly. On May 10th, 1933, 20,000 books were burned by the German Student Union. That was just 96 days after Adolf Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany. 4 days after that book burning, 25,000 more books were reduced to nothing more than a pile of ash because they were declared un-German. Throughout the entirety of the Holocaust, books were destroyed and banned for being written by foreign authors, for containing non-fascist ideals, for spreading ideas of pacifism and liberalism, books on historic events that painted Germany in a negative light, for promoting Darwinism and philosophy, sexual education, pornography, writings by Jewish authors, works of literature that depict life in unrealistically positive ways, and any book that spoke in degrading terms to describe Hitler's view of the perfect German. It's unsettling to imagine humanity at its lowest points, but you learn from the past, just like you learn from books. In total, perhaps hundreds of thousands of books were banned, burned, or deliberately made lost during the Holocaust, as well as 17 million lives. I'm going to take a sharp turn now, but let's remain lost. How much does it cost to become lost? eOnline.com estimates that at least for the first season, excluding the two-part pilot, each episode of Lost costed around $3 million to make. The website Kiplinger.com tells us the average cat owner will spend about $750 per year in feline expenses, and some cats can live to be almost 30 years old, so the math tells us that in total Jack will cost me maybe $22,000. But with $3 million, I could fund the full lifespan of about 130 cats at the same time, from just one episode of Lost. There were 121 episodes of Lost, which means with the show's entire budget of at least $360 million, you could afford to rescue and care for over 16,000 stray cats. But AA Animal Control estimates that there are about 70 million stray cats in the United States, so having $360 million could only take 0.023% of all strays off the street for life. To solve the stray feline problem and give them all a 30-year lifespan worth of care, it would cost at least $1.5 trillion. It's pretty nuts. What's incredibly more unbelievable is that here in the United States we have over 100,000 acres of land dedicated to watermelons. In 2017, 40 million pounds of watermelon were produced. A full-size watermelon usually weighs around 20 pounds, but that's nowhere near the largest fruit we've ever been able to grow. Meet the giant Atlantic pumpkin. Yes, a pumpkin is a fruit. Pumpkins have seeds, just like tomatoes, which are also fruits. In fact, the state fruit of New Hampshire, believe it or not, is a pumpkin. These are just monster pumpkins. The weight of these massive orange blobs can often reach 2,000 pounds, which is a ton. Literally. When it comes to water, there are about 240 gallons in a single ton. According to Touropia.com, the largest aquarium tank in the world can fit 6.3 million gallons of water in it, giving it a weight of over 26,000 tons. The largest cruise ship in the world is the MS Symphony of the Seas, which is an Oasis-class ship, making it around 5 times the size of the Titanic. The ship can carry almost 6,000 passengers, and the crew alone is a force 2,200 strong. But a floating city really should have a park of some sort. And it does. This ain't a rinky-dink greenhouse either. Central Park, as it's called, has over 20,000 tropical plants within it. But since the ship had a price tag of almost $1.4 billion, you could have made just about anything happen. My name is Antag. Links to my socials in the description. Thanks for hopping aboard the JJ Express. This was episode 2 of FTT. I will see you in the next. Oh, by the way, next week I'm talking about whales.